Hi, today I'm going to talk to you about the chart of the full moon, which is showing on this screen at the moment. The full moon is going to occur in Aries on the 17th of October 2024 at 11:27 a.m. Universal Time. So let's have a look at the chart now. The moon is here at 24 degrees and 35 minutes in Aries, of course, and the sun is right across at 24 degrees and 35 minutes in Libra. So that's the opposition, which forms actually what we call the full moon. Next to the moon is Chiron, as you can see here. Chiron is at 21 degrees, retrograde in Aries. This has something to do with health. It means that some of us may feel quite weakened by this full moon. It's possible, but it's not necessarily rational, because the moon represents the emotions. So when we're emotional, we're not rational. And that's something that we need to be aware of, because on that particular day and around that time, which is once again the universal time, so according to your location, you'd have to work out exactly what time it will be when the moon is full, because that may have an importance as well regarding what you can assume as being real or what you can assume as being under the influence of your emotions. And you see there is Mars here at 22 degrees and 55 minutes in Cancer. And Mars is creating a discordance with the Sun and with the Moon, and of course with Chiron, which is next to the Moon. So Mars is going to make our emotions a lot stronger on that day. And also we will most probably react impulsively and at times perhaps aggressively, violently, to what we will feel as being an aggression, or to what we will feel as being really suddenly destabilizing. And if we feel threatened by something or someone, we could react excessively, because once again, due to the fact that we're dealing with the moon, the full moon tends to enhance our emotional vulnerability. And if we are vulnerable to emotions, it means that we will also be vulnerable to our reactions to such emotions. So we need to know that and to address that particular situation, because the moon is going to remain in Aries for 2.5 days. Now, it is here at 24, almost 25 degrees. It will need the moon approximately 12 hours to change sign. Approximately 12 hours. So that means that 12 hours before and 12 hours after the full moon, the energy of that full moon is going to be very strong. So it's 24 hours, it's a whole day during which we will need to make sure that we do not react on the basis of our emotions rather than on the basis of our intellect, and our ability to think, analyze, and then act, not act before we think and analyze, because it may be too late, to repair the damage that may be caused. So if, for example, it has something to do, as I said earlier on, with health, well, and I'm saying that every time when I speak about Chiron, it could be health as such, it could be health in some area of your life. But whatever it is, it will be enhanced by this type of configuration, especially by Mars. The Sun creates that exaltation of our emotional vulnerability. So Mars will play the role of the referee, which has to decide, if the Sun is right or if the Moon is right. But because the Moon is next to Chiron, it gives it more intensity. So let's be careful on that particular day. Because what we decide, or what happens, may not give a particular result immediately, although it can. If it doesn't, or if there is a possibility that what happens on that particular day and time can have an influence on a longer term basis, think of when the Moon reaches the position of Mars, which will be on the 23rd of October, as you can see here, at 9:30 p.m. Universal Time. The Moon will reach the position of Mars. And that could represent a type of consequence, What you do, what happens on the day of the full moon has repercussions on the 23rd of October, at the end of the day, during, the evening. And that is, of course, once again, universal time, don't forget that. And after that, when the Moon reaches the position of the Sun, that position here, 24 degrees and 35 minutes, because by then the Sun would have moved in Scorpio. But the energy of the opposition here, of the full moon, remains as long as, the Moon has not finished that circle around, or half circle around the zodiac to reach the position of the Sun as it was when the full moon occurred. So that will be on the 31st of October at about 6 in the morning, universal time. So what happens always has a consequence. That's karma, So we need to be sure that on that day and time, the 17th of October at about 11:27 a.m., that's about, the full moon is going to occur then, for sure. But as I said earlier on, the energy is going to perdure for quite a longer time. But there is a sextile, as we call it, with Jupiter, which is here in Gemini. The sextile is a pretty good configuration. It's harmonious. And there is also a trine, which is a 120-degree angle or about with the Sun. So Jupiter would probably be very beneficial to us on that day and time. And then, if we can control the energy of Mars, Jupiter is going to be even more rewarding through the position that it has in Gemini, which is Mercury's sign. And Mercury represents our brain. So it may indicate that thanks to being warned about the possible repercussions of this configuration involving Mars, the Sun, Chiron, and the Moon, if we're able to control that energy and to stay out of trouble, then, of course, Jupiter will tend to reward us for being so wise, and so careful. And that also indicates that on that particular day and time, or around that time, some kind of opportunity will come forward. And if we realize, if we understand, if we are able to take advantage of this opportunity, whatever it is, it could take a very short time before we can really reap the rewards. And that would be when the moon reaches Jupiter, which is here, and that corresponds to the 21st of October at about 7:30 in the morning. So it's 4 days after the full moon, we could take advantage of the energy of Jupiter and what it has to give us. And what it has to give would be probably very positive as far as our health is concerned, current, as far as our emotional structure is concerned, the moon, as far as our physiological, psychological structure is concerned as well, the sun. So the sun is the energy of life, and the moon represents the ability that we have to get our organs to work properly, because the moon is water and we are made out of about 70 to 75% of water. So that water in our cells is going to be a source of disruptions for some because of Mars, if those people do not know how to control their emotions, and with the repercussions on their physiological behavior, organic behavior. All that is going to come into play. So by remaining as positive as possible, Jupiter represents, our positive side, then we will most probably take advantage of what Mars represents, which is, of course, reactivity. But it's not our own necessarily reactivity that it means that it represents. It could be other people's reactivity. It could be the weather's reactivity. So if there is a big weather problem in your region, Mars can represent storm, it can represent lightning, it can represent anything that happens very suddenly and that could become a source of disruption. You see, Mars is in Cancer, and Cancer is represented by the moon. So naturally, the link between the moon and Mars is very strong, and it may become a source of disruption. But Mars is in harmony with Venus on one side and with Neptune on the other side. And that indicates that thanks to our ability to keep connected with the spiritual dimension of life and with love as well, represented by Venus, we will be able to control the situation. Because Neptune also represents our intuition, inspiration, but especially our intuition and our sixth sense. And let's be guided by our intuition, because that's going to make the difference between those who are going to take advantage of the energies in presence and those who are not, who are going to fall victim of that same energy. So it's all a matter of self-discipline and choice. Are you going to be led by your emotions, or are you going to be led by your feelings of love, compassion and spirituality? The link that we need at all times, the link that we need to protect, to preserve with the spiritual dimension of life, makes all the difference between those who can really learn from what happens in their life and those who do not want to understand why. They cannot understand because they are not willing to understand. So now when the moon reaches Uranus. You see, Uranus is in Taurus, and it creates a very nice link here with Neptune. We could almost say that there is a positive influence stemming from Saturn. Saturn is in Pisces as well, just like Neptune. But of course, if you are set on the number of degrees representing that sextile, which is, this aspect here, or this one rather, the one that links Uranus and Neptune, it's not applicable to Saturn. But still, Saturn is in Pisces, and Pisces is a sign in harmony with Taurus, with the elements at least, water and earth. So anyway, if that happens, if we can take advantage of the energy of Saturn and the energy of Neptune, we'll also be able to take advantage of the energy of Vesta, which is here in Virgo, and also the energy of Pluto, which is here in Capricorn, at the very end in Capricorn, because you see, 1 month or so, 1 month and 3 days after the full moon, Pluto is going to change sign to begin a 20-year transit in Aquarius. I'm writing a book about this. If you're interested, you'll find it on the Amazon website very soon. I will announce it, but it should be published on the 20th of November, when actually Pluto does enter in Aquarius to remain in the sign for 20 years, because it has had already done a few incursions in Aquarius, but right now it is in Capricorn. Anyway, those links, those aspects as we call them, involving Uranus and Saturn perhaps, at least Neptune for sure, Pluto and Vesta, indicate that a change in the way we deal with our life may be what will save our life, may be what is going to improve the life of many people who have decided that the change was the opportunity not to be missed. So that is going to happen. I mean, the conjunction between the moon and Uranus is going to occur on the 19th of October at 2:30 p.m. But of course, it's going to be strong a few hours before and a few hours later. And that is indicating actually a change for our life to make a turn, a decisive turn. So what is it that you want to change in your life? It's very important to be able to answer that, because if you don't know, perhaps life is going to decide for you. Therefore, you become victim of the change, and it would become much more difficult for you to benefit from such a change. You see, there is an opposition from Venus, and that could indicate a moment when, love-wise, your life is going to change. And that's love as such, through a personal, intimate relationship. But it could be the love of something, the love of being who you are, love of yourself. We need to love ourselves before we can be loved by other people. If you don't love yourself, it becomes much more difficult for other people to connect to that positive energy that is love through you. So you will feel less and less attractive and so on. So we need to love ourselves, and we need to learn to love ourselves, to appreciate who we are, so that other people can appreciate us. Otherwise, well, we are a victim of our own life, which is not what should be. Because if you look at Pluto, which represents regeneration, transformation, and the ability to stand, and to get up again if you fall, and to heal if you get ill. And then there is Saturn that indicates the potential endurance. So if you have the ability to sustain long-lasting effort and work, well, the change that you want to make or that you need to make will be a success. It will bring something very concrete and durable in your life. And then Neptune is there also to indicate that if you follow your nose, your intuition, your sixth sense, then it's going to lead you where you should be going. And that's what you're going to realize. Yes, I feel that I should be doing this or going toward this or going in this direction. And then there is Vesta, representing harmony. So the link with Vesta here at 25 degrees in Virgo indicates how important it is to assess what exactly you consider as being harmony. It's like success. Success is different for everyone. Harmony must be different for everyone. We have different needs, different approaches to life and so on. So once we assess the fact that harmony, that's what it is for ourselves. Well, fair enough. It's not the same as anyone else's, but it doesn't matter. It's your way of feeling in harmony with yourself and with life. And that's when Uranus can be useful. So when the moon reaches Uranus and on and around 2:30 p.m. in October, on October 19, then yes, you can suddenly change the direction of your life or make the decision. It doesn't mean that it's going to have a concrete and official effect immediately, but it may when actually the moon reaches, first of all, when it reaches Vesta, which is the first element that is in harmony with Uranus if you follow the zodiac. So that will be on the 29th of October at about 5 in the morning. So it will be most of the day actually on that 29th of October. And then there is here two elements that we need to take into consideration because they're, in the way I deal with astrology, they are both, and the sun as well, in Vesta's sign. So that means that here we have Lilith, or the black moon, and next to it we have the south lunar node. And the south lunar node represents that from which we should be tending to part, let go of. It can represent a type of dependence that we need to end, because otherwise it's going to slow us down and it's going to limit us in the results that we, expect from what we do in life. And Lilith next to it indicates that we're not sure of what it is that we need to, let go of and part from. And if we're not sure, it's because there is something lying there that hasn't been resolved. A dark zone. What is it in your life? It's important to assess that as well. Because when the moon reaches the south lunar node and Lilith, which will be on the 30th of October, during the morning anyway, and that energy is going to last for the whole day for sure. If we are not sure of what that dark zone is, we may decide to remain the same and to accept the fact of being dependent on something or someone that we don't agree with, but comfort zone, as they call it in psychology. And a comfort zone that may not be comfortable at all, but still, you know it, you're used to it. So somehow, it's safe there, even though it's very uncomfortable. It's for you to decide, but you need to prepare yourself. And that full moon is there for that. Happens to make sure that if your emotions are strong enough, you will perceive. And if you perceive, then you can think about rationally. And if you do so, when the moon reaches, by the time it reaches the position of Lilith and the south lunar node, if you do know what that means, then you can shed that light on the dark zone and decide rationally and much more efficiently what needs to be done to detach yourself from the so-called dependence on whatever it is that you are attached to. Then on the 31st of October, as I mentioned earlier, the moon will reach the position where the sun was when the full moon occurred at 6 in the morning. And that will be more or less the end of the cycle, which is officially going to end on the following day when, of course, the new moon occurs in Scorpio. On the 1st of November, so the following day, at 5 in the morning, the moon reaches Mercury, representing our brains, So suddenly we understand. Suddenly the light comes, Oh, that's what it is, of course. But it's going to be useful thanks to what you will have been thinking about and addressing mentally to understand. Because Mercury is not going to be there on the 1st of November, as we'll have a look right now according to the following chart. You see, that's the chart of the new moon. And you see Mercury is near the end in Scorpio. And that will be the chart of the new moon, which, of course, I will analyze in due time to help you along the way from that new moon until the following full moon, which will occur about 2 weeks later, so around the 14th of November. Anyway, I'll thank you very much for your attention and your interest in my work. I remind you about my books if you're interested in learning or in, getting more information on one particular subject of astrology. I've written a few books that you can read and that you can purchase actually from the Amazon website in your country. And of course, you can also enroll in the course to learn astrology and to be guided through the various steps that need to be taken to obtain the knowledge and the ability to use this tool to make your life and other people's life perhaps better. Thank you very much and enjoy the full moon in Aries. Bye for now.